I am Councillor Justin Wrench, Chairman of the Council, and I will be chairing this meeting. This meeting was planned to be viewed live on the YouTube channel this evening, but unfortunately we have a slight technical hitch. So the meeting is being recorded and will be uploaded as soon as possible. So please can I ask everyone present to ensure their mobile phones and devices are switched to silent and to avoid any disruptions. This meeting is scheduled for 3 hours, and I would be grateful if everyone could ensure that they keep their speeches concise and to the issues being considered. If members wish to speak this evening, please can you indicate by clearly raising your hand. Please note that we are not expecting a fire alarm. However, in the event of an alarm, please leave via the fire exits immediately and assemble into the car park. I will now proceed to the first item of business, agenda item 1, apologies for absence. So members, I have received apologies for absence from Councillor Charlie Dervish, Councillor Lynn Jeffress, Councillor George Coulthard, Councillor Tom Walsh and Councillor Alt. Are there any further apologies to make? And Councillor Thorogood. Thank you. We'll now proceed to agenda item 2, declarations of interest. So members, do we have any disclosable pecuniary interest, other registrable interest or non-registrable interest that they wish to declare this evening? If so, please can you state the item and the nature of your interest? Okay, thank you members. As we don't have any declarations this evening, we will now proceed to agenda item 3, which is the minutes of the previous meeting. We are asked to approve the minutes of the full council meeting held on the 15th of September 2025, which have been circulated to members and published on the council's websites. Please can I have a proposer to approve the minutes as an accurate record? Thank you, Councillor Butland. And I now seek a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. The minutes have been moved and seconded as an accurate record. All those in favour, please indicate. Thank you, members. That is unanimous. And the minutes are now approved. Please just wait a moment while I sign these minutes this evening. So we'll now proceed to agenda item 4, public question time. So we have no registered speakers this evening, so I'll now proceed to agenda item 5, the announcements and statements from the Chairman and the Leader of the Council. So members, since our last meeting of the full Council in September, I've had the privilege of attending 10 engagements that reflect the Council's ongoing commitment to education, community wellbeing, business development and civic partnership. I wish to highlight 2 particularly impactful events, followed by a brief thematic summary of the 8 further engagements that I attended. So firstly, the Braintree District Careers Fair, which was held on the 24th of September, was a landmark occasion for our district. This was actually held just outside the boundary of our district, but we welcomed every single school and their Year 11 pupils from the 11 secondary schools across the Braintree district. I'm proud to report that this council funded the travel of every single coach to enable all children to attend. It was a fantastic event. It provided a rich array of career pathways with employers, colleges and training providers offering guidance and also inspiration. At one point they even got me changing a tyre on a mock car, and also I was dressed up as Border Force from Stansted Airport. So it was a great event, lots of children came and they thoroughly enjoyed themselves, and if only I had that opportunity myself before I made my own pathway, I think it will enable the children of tomorrow to make even better informed choices. Also, myself and our Vice Chairman, Councillor Walters, and also Mary Cunningham attended Crucial Crew at Alec Hunter Academy, which is a vital initiative which shows the partnership of the council where they work with local agencies to develop awareness for our primary school children. Through interactive sessions covering topics such as fire safety, online behaviour and personal wellbeing, children gained practical knowledge to navigate real-world risks, but in a very safe environment. The programme exemplifies the strength of multi-agency working, and again, those children soon to be moving on to the next stage of education are going to be better prepared because of the work of this council. I also attended the new deanery with some community fundraising with their Macmillan Coffee Morning, which showcases the generosity and warmth within our local community. I've attended 2 business events, one at the iConstruct building, but also one at Crescent Temple Barns, where we explored the role of artificial intelligence and also sales within small businesses. I was fortunate, alongside the Mayor of Halstead, to attend the Justice Ceremony on behalf of the High Sheriff at Chelmsford Cathedral, and also very proud to be able to attend alongside Councillor Spray, Notley High School, with the opening of their new 4G artificial pitch, and also again with Councillor Spray just this week, and also Councillor Coleridge in Hatfield Peveril, the opening of 2 brand new tennis courts, just showing what effective planning and Section 106 funding can bring to our communities. These engagements collectively reflect our district's values, and I feel absolutely privileged to be a part of this, so thank you to all officers and members that enable this to happen. So I'll now ask Councillor Graham Butland to make any announcements this evening.
Mr. Chairman, I have no announcements this evening.
Thank you, Councillor Butland. Members, we'll now proceed to item 6, the motion by Councillor Joe Beavis. So, following the publication of this report, set out on pages 5 to 6 of tonight's agenda, an amendment was received in accordance with the Council's procedural rules. Councillor Beavis and Councillor Abbott, as the proposer and seconder of the original motion, were consulted and have consented to the amendment. As a consequence of this acceptance, the amended motion is now the substantive motion to be considered this evening. Members, the addendum report setting out the amended motion was published and circulated to all members on Friday the 24th of October, and we will be referring to the amended motion report for the debate. Councillor Beavis and Councillor Abbott, as the proposer and seconder of the motion, are both present this evening, and so the motion may now proceed. Councillor Beavis, please can you formally move your motion, and before you make your speech, it must be seconded.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I propose the motion as amended. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Beavis. Councillor Abbott, as you were recorded as the seconder of this motion, please can you confirm that you second this motion, and if you wish to reserve your right to speak?
I second the motion and I reserve the right to speak.
Thank you, Councillor Abbott. I will now invite Councillor Beavis to make her speech.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good evening, members. I start by thanking the Conservative Group for their consideration of the motion and explaining to me about the amendment. The purpose of the motion is to take a bit of a pit stop and to reflect on our district of tomorrow in both challenging and changing horizon. The local plan refresh will see our adopted local plan roll forward to 2041, delivering approximately 11,000 new homes, in addition to the approximately 14,000 new homes in our current adopted local plan. In addition to this, homes and economic development sites have been granted on appeal by government inspectors. This has made me think, and I know I'm not alone, based on my conversations with councillors, stakeholders, our town and parish councillors, and of course our people and communities. The purpose of the motion is to consider, is current growth and growth plans being delivered appropriate community infrastructure and community services? Our district is congested because local road infrastructure is not adequate to fairly allow traffic movements across the Braintree district. Yes, Braintree is our main town and prioritised for growth and investment by this council. But if you live in the north of the Braintree district and want to shop for Christmas, meet friends and family and use the services around Braintree, You had to be prepared to wait, and wait a long time, and often in many cases you give up. Appointments for both dental care and primary care are limited because services have not met population growth. Young apprentices and those newly into employment or further education struggle to find bus connections to help them reach their destination due to the lack of investment in public transport. In the villages in the north of the district, community transport is being cut, leaving residents fighting to have their voices heard as they battle to convince the service providers that reliable and frequent community transport is a lifeline, particularly for those with special needs. A planning application in Housestead has been won on an appeal, which will deliver the Stage 1 Housestead bypass, but when? Councillor Taylor and I recently met football legend Chris Kamara at our local football club, and I dare say you'll hear a bit more from Councillor Taylor on this evening. The club and the grounds are owned by Braintree District Council. Chris spoke about the importance of grassroots football and said it delivered more for young people than the big national clubs. It made me think about Braintree Town Football Club and what are the plans for more investment in council-owned facilities and developments that will deliver better facilities for our district. Section 106 agreements are being poorly delivered, with developers taking decades to fulfil their obligations. Curbside recycling targets have not been met to meet growth of the population. From June 2026, we're asking our residents to do more. Let's make every effort to ensure that we truly listen, following almost 10,000 responses to the public consultation. So, in the rapid pace of growth and local government reorganisation on our horizon, I ask Council to consider our district of tomorrow, because what we decide today is the future for our people and communities of tomorrow. I therefore ask Council to reaffirm its position to deliver key services and community infrastructure that are fit for purpose, focusing on community prosperity and the environment. Investment in services and facilities where there is housing growth, including in our villages, to ensure community services and infrastructure meet population growth. I so move.
Thank you, Councillor Beavis. Do any members wish to speak on this motion? And please can I remind members that their speeches must be directed to the motion under discussion. So please indicate by raising your hand. I'll start with Councillor Mary Cunningham.
Thank you, Chairman. I fully support the motion, and community infrastructure is key to the health and well-being of our residents, and we know that safe communities are strong communities. We have strong partnerships with many organisations, including the police, voluntary sector and community groups, large and small, all who make such valuable contributions for the benefit of our residents, both in our towns and our rural villages. The pandemic and then the cost of living crisis and the strong relationships we've been able to forge through those difficulties have given us a really strong foundation of community engagement, which will form the bedrock for the future unitary in whatever shape it takes, and I'm confident that community infrastructure will remain a priority in the future. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Councillor Staines.
Thank you, Chair. Since starting political activity in 2020, I've seen many examples of growth with inadequate service and support to residents. This substantive motion can send a clear message to our future administration to put the needs of our existing residents and communities first, and that growth should enhance their lives and not burden them. The local plan process is effectively an act of self-harm, as top-down housing targets are inflicted onto its own residents and communities, whether they are needed or not, frequently overturning neighbourhood plans and gifting land use to political and wealthy overlords like a tribute, so residents retain the privilege of living here, even if the area becomes increasingly unrecognisable. I hope this council and all mayoral candidates will, like the CPRE, reject the successive UK government housing targets, 5-year housing supply and delivery test, as they don't deliver what communities need. How have we done using the tools available to get what residents need? Community Infrastructure Levy. District development since April 2010 under Planning Act 2008 could have combined CIL contributions from many developments for agreed strategic needs, but we didn't do that. S106 discussions without transparency or input from residents or elected councillors have not all performed as well as Notley's 4G pitch mentioned by the chairman. By way of an example, planning will debate tomorrow if the Freeport developer can avoid some of their agreed S106 contributions for a public bus service to the town centre. Freeport opened in 1999, but soon Braintree will lose another key retailer, even after spending millions of council tax resources to arrest its decline. And there's the £1 million over 5 years for public buses from Towlands to Braintree. And while Three Fields residents struggle with an unreliable public bus service, and despite 7 parishes securing a 1-year £50,000 Love Your Bus grant. New and existing residents are increasingly irritated when developments on their village boundary do not automatically lead to the village sign being moved to include their new road or their junction being included in lower village speed limits. What could BDC do to put its affairs in order to help its successors and put residents first? Is it possible to convert 106 agreements into more robust Section 278 agreements under the Highways Act 1980 to establish a legal framework that binds landowners, district, county, national highways, promoters and developers to the new unitary authorities? Would 278s facilitate the joint enforcement, oversight and monitoring of key cross-boundary corridors, and more importantly ensure that effective management and funding of responsive and adaptive mitigation measures should the forecast network performance not be achieved, which obviously is a high risk? Our corridors are through and around Towlands, as well as anything relating to the A12, A120 and A131. The local plan review does not benefit local communities, and adding mitigation to the original motion emphasises the high cost of imposed growth on communities already under strain, and I strongly support this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Staines. Councillor Ritchie.
Thank you, Mr Chairman. Let me inject some positivity into this motion, and we fully support the motion that Councillor Beevers support before this chamber this evening. I think there's much that we can support and do support as a district council. It's only right to maintain that as we go forwards. Just from an economical perspective, we went after the shared prosperity funding, we went after the REP funding to support some of the businesses within our districts. For those of you who follow the social media, we had a jobs fair in Witham a little over 2 weeks ago. 425 attended that, with 25 prospective employers, really boosting the local economy up and down the district, not just in Braintree. For those of you who might be interested, on the 13th of November, we are carrying out, this is delivered by Braintree District Council, by the way, an over 45s session for those looking to get into work if you're slightly senior. And NEEB, we are still carrying out free business sessions to encourage prosperity within the district with small businesses. We often hold those at the Plaza, and then unashamedly the Plaza has done a fantastic job in nurturing start-up businesses at the Hatchery, an oversubscribed service that are supporting young entrepreneurs within our district. Again, not just Braintree, they come from House Street, they come from Witham, and we will continue to support this going forward. Thank you, Mr Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Spray.
Thank you, Chairman. I welcome the views shared in this motion, especially concerning the uncertainties about the future of local government and how that might affect Essex and our district. We don't know what plan making is going to look like under a unitary authority. In fact, we won't know for some months yet where Braintree will fit into the new local government model. With that in mind, I believe it is even more important that this council continues with its review and update of our current adopted local plan. We have an increased housing target set by the government, and apologies, Chairman, because it's probably only the 100th time that I've mentioned that already, but I'm going to go on repeating it. It is crucial, as the motion says, in this changing landscape, and I think that's a good choice of words, by the way, that we have the comfort of a local plan found sound by an inspector. Because at the very least, we need to be in control of where we want to see development in this district and in our part of Essex. No speculative developments overturned on appeal. No government interference because our performance isn't seen as being up to scratch. And along with development must come the infrastructure to support local communities. Now, this applies as much for small developments around the villages as it does on the very large sites that we need to allocate to meet our housing target. Section 106 money from housing developments makes a really positive contribution to local projects. And as the Chairman mentioned in his opening remarks, I've attended with him to, very recently, to official openings of excellent sporting facilities, and those have come through from Section 106 housing contributions, and they are very welcome and they are going to be a great asset for their local communities. But the big stuff, the concerns that residents understandably fill our inboxes with, bend our ear about at parish council meetings, so the health centres, schools, road improvements. Whilst considerable sums of Section 106 funding support those facilities, they're not within the gift of us as a district council to deliver. They're a county or even a government decision. As part of a unitary authority, that may change, and hopefully it will. But what we can do in the meantime is to work with partners, applying pressure where necessary to ensure the best possible outcome to our residents, with a particular emphasis on transport and health service improvements. I'm very happy to support this motion. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Spray. Next, I have Councillor Wendy Taylor.
Thank you, Chair. I am supporting the motion. As Councillor Beavis has mentioned, we both recently attended the opening of the Headingham United Football Club new kitchen facilities provided by Howden's Game Changer programme. This is a community outreach campaign that works with grassroots football clubs to transform clubhouse kitchens. Chris Kamara, ex-pro footballer and pundit and Game Changer ambassador, opened the event and spoke about the importance and impact of grassroots football and facilities on his own career, and how the investment in local clubs makes such a difference to both teams and community and helps the grassroots game to survive. It is great to see businesses collaborating with local communities, but it is essential that we commit to prioritise investment in services and facilities in our villages to ensure that all grassroots sports are properly supported. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Next, I have Councillor Coleridge.
Thank you, Chair. I welcome the substantive motion sitting before Council tonight and wholeheartedly agree that we should ensure that investment continues to be channelled into our district's villages. As the Chair referenced in his announcements, as a resident and representative of Hatfield Peveril, I was very pleased to attend the grand opening of the new tennis courts on Saturday within the village and able to see firsthand the excitement that this is generating amongst different generations within the village. This has been brought about by engagement between the officers of this council and representatives of the parish council successfully utilising Section 106 contributions, and demonstrates the importance of these partnerships within the current local government structure. The new unitary would be very wise to adopt this type of collaboration within their planning and local plan process. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Coleridge. Councillor Toby Williams.
Mr Chairman, thank you very much. I just intend to say a few brief words. I'm delighted to be able to support this motion because I think what it really reflects is an exceptional track record that this council has when it comes to community investment, and you don't have to look much further, as always, than Witham for evidence of this, especially in the form of a new 3G football pitch for the town. That's £600,000 worth of investment into Witham. Wouldn't be possible without those Section 106 contributions. And this pitch is part of a much wider package for the entire district, and I understand that £1.1 million worth of developer contributions will be going towards 4 3G pitches or 4G pitches across the Braintree district. And I think these facilities, these community assets are really, really important because they add value. They bring communities together, and they do so in a way which promotes exercise, promotes a healthy lifestyle, and promotes sport as well. And what this shows to our residents, I think, is that there are benefits to new housing. There isn't just all downsides. With new housing, part of that social contract, part of that understanding is that there brings some degree of wider benefits to the local community. So I'm delighted to support this motion. I think we need to see much more of this going forward as we transition through OGR and as we start the new chapter of Essex's local government journey. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Councillor Edwards.
Thank you, Chair. I'm very pleased to be able to support this amended motion this evening. Whilst I might be the ward member for Bocking South, I like to think of myself as a child of Great Notley, and I think Great Notley is the model for how we do development with community infrastructure in Braintree. That is a development that had a big Tesco's, a little co-op, a church, hairdressers, dentist. Great Notley's got what you need, and it's all in a pretty walkable distance. If only we had more garden communities in this district with that kind of community infrastructure, I think we'd be in a much better place, but sadly that's not where we are. To speak about my own ward, and particularly about the town centre, I think this council has a cracking track record on improving our town centre and delivering community infrastructure there. Just over the past few years, we've had the Victoria Square development, the pedestrianisation of the town centre. As Councillor Staines said, amongst the doom and gloom, the rest of his speech, a bright spot was millions of pounds of council funding for our Braintree town centre. And whilst there is a bit of work to do on fixing a few paving issues, I know there are many more measures coming down the track that are going to make our town centre even more beautiful, including in a few weeks some Christmas lights. This is a council that really cares about our communities, and it strives to improve the places that they live in. I think we've also had a bit of doom and gloom this evening about the local plan process. I've actually found the local plan process a really engaging and fulfilling one. It's absolutely right that democratically elected councillors should be able to plan development, plan infrastructure for the communities that have sent them here to represent them. Too often, I think, we can get into a position where we're not welcoming housing. I absolutely welcome the number of new homes that this council has committed to build through the local plan process for young people like myself who are hoping to get on the housing ladder. So as I say, Chairman, I'm very happy to support this amended motion this evening and think this council has a great track record so far of delivering community infrastructure for the communities across this district. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. I have Councillor Tom Cunningham.
Chairman, thank you very much. An excellent motion, and very grateful to the Leader of the Opposition for bringing it forward this evening. I think after a summer of high detail and at times high politics on the future of local government reform and talking about whether it's 3, 4 or 5 configurations, it's really useful to actually bring the debate back to the front doorstep of our mutual friends, the residents of the Braintree districts, and I think this motion does that tonight. And I think there's been some excellent points been made, and it's also good to remind all colleagues and residents of the strong community foundations we have in place which will serve the new future local authorities well. I just want to reflect on a couple of the points made about the planning process, and I was a little bit surprised when I think Councillor Staines said local plan process is an act of self-harm for communities, and as Councillor Spray quite rightly alluded to, referred to the risks of not having a local plan in place, and we don't have to go very, very far to see when that goes horribly wrong. We only have to go west along the A120 into the district of Uttlesford to see where they kicked the local plan process down the road, had their planning functions taken away as a result, huge amounts of housing developments built on appeal. In Uttlesford and Essex you have one of the highest rates of build-out, good, but with the poorest quality infrastructure because the developers have been running the story, they've been writing the script, and the council and the councillors chose to opt out of the process, and you get anarchy. I'm also very interested in the points about community infrastructure levy, the SIL, and this is something we have heard a lot about, and I do hope as we go through a change in the planning process that these levers can be pulled in a more effective way. My only current concern about community infrastructure levy is that it is open to political manipulation over a wide area, and you only have to go to Chelmsford to see that, where large housing developments were built in Ripple, and the SIL was collected there and spent in Bewley Park, not on the new station, but in the developments in the north of the city area, and that's not to the benefit of Ripple. Whereas the Section 106 does have some limitations, but you do have that local accountability. I just also want to refer to the comments made about buses and rural transport. Transport provision has changed. It has needed to change over the last 15, 20 years. The idea of 20-year-old buses and diesel guzzling buses hurtling around country lanes with 3 or 4 people on them isn't sustainable. Yet I think it is worth remembering that Essex County Council, through public transport, subsidises bus routes to one of the highest levels of any county authority in the country. It was the highest subsidy, it's still in the top 3, and they've actually really pushed the envelope in terms of looking for new alternatives. The on-demand digital service, Digigo service, which we were delighted was launched in this district and continues to grow from strength to strength and paves the way of how you can do rural transport and provide those rural communities in the future. And I'm glad Councillor Staines mentioned the grants achieved by both Rain Parish Council and Shelford Parish Councils, and credit to the parish councils for unlocking that money. And I understand from Essex County Council that there's more money available to any communities who want to bid for that funding to improve local bus services. That window will be opening shortly. So thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, for a very good debate.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Councillor Billy Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think Councillor Staines is wrong. I'll explain why. The government, in my view, was right to reinstate housing targets per local authority. I think it's really important that councils, under a standard methodology, have a target to deliver homes with a housing land supply. And the reason why you have that standard methodology is because those local authorities that are NIMBY in nature will just refuse to build. And if you want to price your youth and next generation out of owning a new home, don't build any homes, and that would be a catastrophe for our country and our economy. And I think Councillor Cunningham was absolutely right that when you refuse to engage in a local plan process, you end up like a Castle Point or an Uttlesford or another bonkers local authority. Braintree has an excellent reputation for delivering homes, and what's been referenced by Councillor Williams in Whittam, you see Bellway and Redrow have delivered first-class new homes, and that's to be congratulated across the board. And when you don't, and I think the other point as well is Michael Gove, I actually disagreed with the fact he scrapped central housing targets, because that, combined with the trust budget where we saw interest rates go through the roof, we saw housing delivery strategic land just stop completely. So that was a complete disaster. If you look at the issue around Section 106, developers actually do want to build infrastructure and amenities, doctors, surgeries and schools. No one walks into a show home and wants to buy a house in a community with no facilities for their children or themselves. And actually, if you looked at the House Builders Federation published a report last year that identified that Essex County Council are sitting on £101 million of unspent monies in education. And I challenged Councillor Tony Ball on that, the Cabinet Member for Education, who said one of the biggest challenges is they haven't got the land to build these new facilities, and they're waiting for local authorities across Essex to progress sites. On the number that Councillor Butland has talked about, and I think Councillor has talked about those urban extensions, those larger facilities of perhaps 1,000 units plus, you get the infrastructure provisions. So on the whole, I think it's something we should be supporting. I'm delighted to be supporting the motion this evening, but let's not attack the development industry too much. They build the houses that we actually live in. So yeah, that's pretty much it from me, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. I believe our next speaker is our final speaker, but please forgive me, we've had quite a few hands raised this evening too. If I have missed you, please raise your hand and I'll come to you after Councillor Bowers. Thank you, Councillor Bowers.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I rise tonight to support this motion. What I'd like to say, and I know when Councillor Beevers opened up the debate in regards to her thoughts on the motion and why it was brought to Council tonight, and obviously is supported through the amendment process through this side. But also in regards to the investment into properties in the district, into community facilities, and I noticed that Braintree Town Football Club was referenced. So I just wanted, on the Braintree Town Football Club, we actually just bring it to Council's attention in regards that this Council did support Braintree Town Football Club in 2012 with a loan to support their overall financing, which the club completed paying back in 2023. And also this Council also leases land next to the stadium to the club to support them with a space for their training facilities. Over recent times, we have been speaking with the club in regards to discussing the potential of their relocation. So we are there to support the football club, and we always have done. In regards to the motion, in regards to prioritising investment in services and facilities, I think this council has a proud record in regards to doing that. I think we only have to look through our budget process and even looking at the Treasury report that's before us tonight. When we look at the new homes bonus money that we've invested, this council have taken the opinion, which is different to a lot of authorities, in regards to using that money not to prop up the day-to-day funding of the authority, but using that money to put capital investment into a number of things. And including, like this year, through the budget process, the Community Asset Fund, the 1.5 million that we're putting forward to our local facilities that will benefit residents across the district, and not just in those areas, in the wider district, including £500,000 in Silver End Village Hall, including personally at the moment actively looking at the possibilities of solar arrays and the like, the 400,000 at Housestead Leisure Centre, 180,000 Marks Farm Community Centre, and the 330,000 Whitton Public Hall, which I visited the other day, which we're virtually finishing now the boiler in the management work. So I think it's fair to say that we have done that, and this is not just me, the cabinet, this side. As a council, over the years, we have invested in that, and long agreeing with Councillor Beevers, long will that continue as much as we can support the district. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bowers. Councillor Abbott, having reserved your right to speak, do you wish to speak now?
Yes, thank you, Mr Chairman. Councillor Beevers set out what I thought was a very good balance of what is going well in the district, but also the reality of the deficits in key services and investment in certain areas. I thought we'd hear from the Conservatives that they think their record is exceptional. That was the word I picked out. To be blunt, that is rather complacent. Whilst investing in sports, of course, is important, and several Conservative members spoke about that, it is one of several core areas where we need investment. And in some areas, things are lagging badly behind. I heard mention of Braintree Town Centre and how well it's doing. How many members here have been to Witton Town Centre recently? It's not doing so well, which is a shame. It's a town I spent most of my life growing up in, and it's very sad to see so many shops have closed, including very valuable local independent stores like Mundy's. A less independent store is about to close, but it's still another one going. And I would warn that NEP's proposal to start introducing charging for parking in the High Street in Witton could further put another nail into that coffin. Tens of thousands of new residents in this district have either moved in the last few decades or are about to move in the future few decades. And I could talk about lots of areas where I believe services and investment haven't been done to the level they need to, but I'm going to pick on just two. Number one is health. Primary healthcare is not getting the investment it needs, despite Section 106 contributions that this council gives, it requires from developers on the request of the National Health Service. Anyone who sits on planning committee knows we get a major housing development. The NHS says you need to invest in local health services because they're not adequate. But where is that substantial investment? I know Braintree's had some, but where is it for Witton and the villages? We're not getting it. Silver End surgery, I will keep banging this drum, is owned by the District Council. It's got hundreds of thousands of pounds of Section 106 money sitting there, or is due to be given. Where is the expansion? There are thousands of new residents moving into Silverend and Cressing, which are in the catchment. It hasn't been expanded. And my second area I'd like to raise is transport. What I've picked up from the local plan process is that we've gone backwards. The focus is relentlessly on road capacity, and we're not talking about hardly anything else through the local plan process. What has happened to the long talked about improvements to the Braintree branch line? Members who have been on this council for a while may remember that we were talking about a passing loop on the Braintree branch line, which could double the capacity on the line. Maybe things will change now with the new station opening at Bewley, but we don't seem to talk about that anymore. Or what about the network of Dutch-style cycling routes that myself and others have talked about for years, which connect our towns and villages, particularly in the south of the district? The cycling group on this council I don't think has met for over a year. So we're going backwards in that area as well. And bus services, as we all know, are not as good as they were decades ago, despite the increase in population. To Councillor Cunningham's point about buses going around our villages churning out smoke, they don't necessarily have to run on diesel anymore. There are other means of propulsion for buses. So as things stand, contrary to the claims of developers, the congestion on local roads, I'm afraid, unless someone's going to tell me something different, is set to get a lot worse with the expansion of housing and all those new residents. Not that I'm against the new residents at all, they're very welcome to the district, but we need to think about the future, not just next year, but 5 years and 10 years down the line. Anyone who travels in this district a lot will see what Braintree Town Centre's like at peak times. Whittam's getting worse and worse and worse. Whittam now clogs up even when the schools are picking up at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and clogs up again between 5 and 6. We're simply not addressing these issues. Another key pinch point, now that the A12 scheme has been cancelled, are the A12 junctions at Rivenhall End. They're lethally dangerous. We get crashes there on a very regular basis. There's a big problem with HGVs coming off there and running through the local villages. So, whilst I fully support the motion, it's not doom and gloom to raise these realities of life that local communities face. So whilst the council's done a lot of good things, we have to recognise that we've got a lot more to do if we're going to improve the quality of life for all our residents.
Thank you, Councillor Abbott. Councillor Beavis, you may now reply to the speeches, but before you do, please can I remind you that you should confine your reply to the speeches heard this evening, and please do not introduce any new matters. Thank you. Over to you, Councillor Beavis.
Thank you, Chairman, and I've really enjoyed listening from a number of members this evening. I've really enjoyed listening to my group, actually, just to understand how they feel about what's going on at the council at the moment, and I think it is really important that we do that. I don't consider this to be doom and gloom at all, actually. I mean, my golly gosh, you've only got to have read the papers and listened to the news over the weekend, and if you want doom and gloom around this world, you know, this isn't that. And I also spoke to Dennis, actually, just before the meeting, and he's a brilliant councillor at just reading stuff. He just reads stuff. And he just said to me, Jay, we just need to listen to people. And actually, I think we do. And we've all been out there, haven't we, right, delivering our leaflets, and we listen. And I take that really seriously. So when I'm out in Steeple Bumpstead, where I was the other week, listening to some residents that have been there for 30 years, and they're telling me that their bus is going to be cancelled. And actually, it's not so bad for them because they can get their daughter to drop them into Saffron Walden, but the chap next door is in special needs and that bus is going. That hurts me, actually. And actually, I do feel that I want to take that back and talk about it. I think Mary Cunningham, and I said this to Mary a couple of weeks ago, actually, is absolutely wearing the jacket and the portfolio. And the points you make around the voluntary sector, I think, is really, really important. And yet I was with a chairman of quite a large Essex charity over the weekend, and she is really concerned about having their voice diluted as we go forward to LGR. And again, I think we need to listen to that. If that's how they feel, we should be listening. And to pick up on the point about economic development that Councillor Ritchie brought up, I don't disagree. And I think where it's good, it's very good. But I actually shared some photographs a couple of weeks ago now with a Cabinet member, Councillor Bowers, of one particular council-owned property in my ward. And he looked at them and went, ouch, ooh, Joe, right. And so I'll share them, as he's asked me to do so. But somebody needs to get in there pretty quickly and do a condition survey. Because when a leading company in our village invites someone in and they have a tea break and they want to go and use the services, you don't want to go in the gentlemen's toilets. And that's a Braintree District Council-owned property. So I think where we're good, we're very good. But where we're not doing as well, we really do need to put some funding back in. And finally, just on the points made around Treasury management, it's good. The figures are looking good. We've got huge assets. We know we have capital assets. We're going to have a capital surplus. We decided not to spend as much money on this building, for example. So we know we are going to have some capital surplus. And also we're going to have a revenue surplus as well. We're going to have some extra training in 2 weeks' time. I guess we'll hear more about that. But if we do have surpluses and we are going to go through all of these changes, then maybe now is a time to do a little bit of a pit stop and just to tidy up some of the loose ends that actually we do have in the district, and just get them sorted and tidied up before we move on. Thank you very much for the debate. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Beavis. We will now move to the votes. All those in favour of the motion, please indicate. That is unanimous. So the motion has been approved. So thank you for that debate, members. We will now deal with agenda item 7, questions to the Leader and Cabinet. Members, during this item, you may only ask one question of the Leader or the Cabinet members on this matter which relate to their functions, the powers and the duties of the Council, or matters pertaining to the district. Questions must be succinct and cannot be asked in parts, or supplementary questions are not permitted. I will allow some explanation if it is necessary, but I will contain any long lead-in statements. We will have 30 minutes for this item. Questions will commence with Councillor Beavis as Leader of the Opposition, and the order of remaining questions will be at my discretion. Please can all members wishing to speak to ask a question this evening now indicate so we can make a list. Please keep your hand raised until acknowledged. Councillor Hayes.
Thank you, Chair.
Sorry, I do apologise. Councillor Beavis, do you have a question to ask this evening? Yes, are you okay? Yep, thank you.
Yeah, I'm very okay. Thank you very much, Chairman. I just wanted to ask a question, if I may, to the Leader of the Council, and it's around LGR, and I appreciate there are no updates this evening, but one of the questions I asked in some recent training was, are we going to start thinking about a timetable for induction, candidates, members, being a unitary councillor, what that feels like, and just start to think about getting a programme in place. I know under the member development programme we've always had a programme for induction when we get to forthcoming elections. And we're not that far away now, and it's going to be a very busy period ahead, so it's really just around that really. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. Councillor Butland.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, obviously we're in a sort of phony war situation period at the moment that we don't know what the government will be coming out to consultation. I think I would advise members to keep a close eye on what happens in Surrey in the next couple of weeks. That may give us an indication as to which way it's going. Let us assume that we are going to have elections to the new unitary authorities in 2027, the problem of the council doing something, I mean, we can do, but of course, a number of people here will be candidates, a number of people will not be candidates, and there will be a number of people within various groupings who are not here at the moment who will want to be candidates. But I think part of the education process, we would want to ensure that at least the current elected members who are going forward have an idea of what some of the new issues, either those who are just county members and really don't understand what happens in districts, and also those who are district members and don't have a feel for what happens in counties, are as informed as they possibly can be. And I will certainly work closely with the group leaders as to how we might do that. But I think probably we're talking about something in 2026-27 to do that, once we know where we are likely to be in terms of any configuration of unitary authorities.
Thank you, Councillor Butland. Over to you again, Councillor Hayes. Thank you.
Thank you again, Chairman. In light of the NEPS consultation going live this week, does the Council agree that parking on Newland Street should remain free and that this isn't charges by the back door, and that all residents should respond to the consultation so that Witham doesn't end up with an inept solution? We know in these challenging times for businesses, we shouldn't be putting more obstacles in the way and anything that could reduce footfall and add to the growing obstacles that local businesses have to endure. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hayes. Councillor Butland?
I'm not sure it's my question. I am the representative on NEP from this authority. People who have watched it will know I have been pretty consistent, well, not pretty consistent, very consistent with my views on this. And I can assure all members here that my views have not changed with regard to the proposals that NEP were suggesting.
Thank you. Councillor Diamond.
Thank you. Since the horrific anti-Semitic terrorist attack on a synagogue in Manchester last month, many local Jewish people are fearful for their safety. The Labour Group has reached out to local Jewish communities to offer our solidarity and support. What practical steps can Braintree District Council take to ensure that Jewish residents can practice their faith openly and safely, without fear of violence or discrimination? Thank you.
Councillor Mary Cunningham.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Councillor Diamond, for your question. I think I'm going to get further information on that, but I know immediately there were concerns around demonstrations, faith issues, that the Community Safety Partnership, our district commander, visited all our faith organisations, obviously including the Jewish community. We don't actually have a synagogue in our district, but certainly I will find out some further information for you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Abbott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before I became a councillor, and it must have been nearly 30 years ago now, we used to have sustainability forums in this room where councillors and members of the public came together to talk about the growing, which was then a growing sustainability agenda, which got going in the late 80s, early 90s. And my question is really around what's happened to that. Now, whilst the council does still do some good things, we had the members' evening on climate change, and there's the council of community grants, which I know some the ward Bob Wright and I represent, and other people's wards have gone into local projects for planting and things like that. A lot of it seems to have gone by the wayside. So my question is, what's happened to the cycling group? This council, I believe, still has a cycling group. I don't think it's met for a very long time. Why aren't members of this authority more proactively involved in climate change and investment decisions around climate change? Could we have is there going to be next year a budget for tree planting? I don't believe there was any budget at all this year for tree planting. And Councillor Beavers has mentioned about the good financial position the council's in. So perhaps this coming year we could do more with more of those financial assets. Because as things stand, I think we're going backwards on the green agenda when we should be going forwards.
Thank you, Councillor Abbott. Councillor Tom Cunningham.
Thank you very much indeed. I've been here 14 years. I don't remember the sustainability forums, but I do remember some other interventions, the Climate Change Working Group, and the authority declared a climate emergency in line with many others in 2019. And to meet those challenges, Climate Change Action Plan and strategy was written, an action plan was written and been delivered. Money had been allocated in the budget, and Councillor Van Delken is still overseeing the funding of projects and the delivery of projects across the board on this agenda. I think we have a positive story to tell in line with the conflicting priorities and the particularly difficult conflicting priorities of the last 5-6 year period. And with regard to the cycling, I'll give way to one of my colleagues to update on that. But I know on a wide range of issues we continue to talk about, we continue to engage with communities through Braintree Association of Local Councils, Essex Association of Local Councils, on a wide range of issues, I think, including the sustainability agenda. With regard to his question about tree planting, I would say we're just at the start of the emerging budget process. Councillor Bowes and the leader will be saying a lot more next month, and I think it might just be worth just being patient to see what appears in the emerging budget. But a lot going on, and within a few weeks we actually welcome a new climate change lead officer as well to the authority to replace the project manager who's recently left. So still a priority and still delivering. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ritchie, are you able to provide an update? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor, I've actually made a note about the cycling strategy. So at the beginning of this administration, or beginning of the civic year, obviously there's a list of competing priorities that's ahead of this council with LGR, etc. And I will pick up a couple of things. So first of all, in this budget, we did fund the Greenways project, or what was the old EC2K, I think it was £10,000 to advance their work, and we are still working with those. I think it's probably the right sort of time just to have a cycling strategy meeting update, so I will look to diarise that and invite the existing group members who are on that forum, and indeed the members of the public who were valuable in assisting with that, and we'll get one of those in the diary in due course. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Ethan Williams.
Thank you, Chairman. Just a brief question for Councillor Cunningham. After many useful members' evening on the new waste management strategy coming out in June next year, can I just ask for some confirmation on what BDC is doing in preparation for this and for communication to residents?
Councillor Tom Cunningham.
Thank you very much indeed, and I thank Councillor Williams for his question, and I thank colleagues who attended a couple of weeks ago the very useful update we had as members on this. An awful lot going on behind the scenes over a busy summer period, and before the end of November all residents of the Braintree district will be written to explain whether they have the standard or non-standard waste collection service. During this period of time, procurement of the various bins is going ahead, and we'll take delivery of those soon, and they will be rolled out to various locations and to residents in the first part of next year. We undertook a food collection trial in 9 blocks of flats right across the district, which was a very, very interesting exercise, and really helped build further and confirm the decisions that we made on the evidence base that formulated our decision making earlier this year. And it's very interesting that collecting food waste from flats is a very, very new thing, and across a 12-week period the total weight diverted from landfill in 9 blocks of flats was 2.19 tonnes, coming out of the standard communal grey bin into the food caddy and then being disposed elsewhere. So I think it's indicative that actually when you incentivise behavioural change, people respond very, very positively, and I think that bodes well as we go forward into next year and the rollout of the new collection services. But we are under no illusions, this is going to be a big change, and as we said from the get-go, the communication on this is going to be hugely important. So we mentioned letters coming out in November, further letters coming in May next year as we get close to the start of the process. we will have the collection, a new website landing page, an engagement plan, including face-to-face meetings across the district, school visits, internal communications, other applications being designed for your device to update and inform residents, and also additional bring banks being installed. And I'm very excited and enthused about the range of communication assets that have been developed by the excellent team here at BDC. Some really, really good quality stuff. We've got a lot of very talented, very creative people in this authority, and some of the material they've produced is fantastic and is going to help with this process no end. And of course, I think we're all shared collective delight that the hard copy calendar will return next year to help inform, and I think we're all delighted about that as well. So lot going on, a lot to do before June, but I think we're nicely on track. Thank you.
Thank you for the updates. Councillor Abraham.
I'd like to briefly talk.
You don't need to. Don't worry, you won't need to stand this evening.
I've been trained to stand. I've got the point being is, Councillor Spray will be saying that old fool's up again. But the point is, we've talked about Rivenhall Incinerator for some time now, and a lot of the residents, local residents of all ages, have said to me, what's happening with the landscaping? Are they fulfilling their role in landscaping? What's actually being done? And unfortunately, at this point of time, we can't really get our head around it and to see if they've done anything or are about to do something in the plan for the area. The other point is, I did speak to them. They are a fairly friendly lot of blokes, and I was talking about fly tipping. I had a lot of fly tipping that was taking place up there at one time, and the security people have put a lot more cameras in. That seems to have reduced the amount of fly tipping that's gone on up there, so that's a plus. I mean, I did have a problem because courting couples, that they were worried a bit at one time, but we've got over that sort of hump, so we're on the way there, so hopefully we're making improvement.
No, thank you very much, Councillor Abraham.
So yeah, thank you for this.
Okay, could I pass over to Councillor Spray with regards to the landscaping? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairman, and always a pleasure to take questions from Councillor Abraham. So I wouldn't dream of describing him as anything other than a very decent district councillor. I will find the answers to this. There's actually a meeting of the Rivenhall Incinerator Liaison Group where I represent the district on that. We've got a meeting the week after next, so I can find out the answers, particularly with regards to the landscaping. I suspect that the landscaping may be one thing that the incinerator management are actually doing reasonably well at, but I will get confirmation of that. There are other things that are not probably going quite so well on that site, and fly tipping. Yes, I'll find out about the fly tipping as well. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Spray. Councillor Prime.
Thank you, Chair. I like by saying I'm one of those poor souls that does follow social media. Little note to myself, must get a life. One particular social media site that I quite regular watch is by something called Pride of Braintree, which posts useful information regarding roadworks, etc., whether they're closures, temporary traffic lights, and which the residents, like myself, do find useful in their daily commute. One particular post I noticed, it stated that this government had given Essex County Council £22 million. And the way the post come across, it was that this government had made sure that infrastructure was built a priority, and that's why the £22 million was passed over. My question is, and the way this post comes out, is how much of that £22 million is actually going into Braintree? or do I take these posts with a pinch of salt, like I do with the so-called Mayor of Braintree's posts? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Prime. Councillor Bowers.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Councillor Prime, for your question. It's fair to say government money is always welcomed. However, the vast majority does come from Essex County Council. Our partners at Essex County Highways have invested more in road repairs than any comparable council in the country, it's fair to say. Thanks to the Conservative sound financial management and prioritisation, across the county, the reported potholes in January 2023 were 5,033. January 2025 were only but in comparable, 1,637. Yeah. In June, it was down to 759. That's a 53.6% decrease in pothole reports from January to June this year. I'm pleased to say there has been additional work in both the urban and rural areas within the Braintree district, which I'm sure we will all welcome. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Bowers. Councillor Finken.
Chairman. I want to ask a question about the Househead High Street regeneration project. We started discussions on this in 2021. The scheme was agreed in 2022. And recently, Househead Town Council and residents expressed concerns about the delays and the lack of progress in implementing the scheme. So our clerk wrote to the lead officer, and her reply was, the High Street improvements are progressing well, which is totally not the experience of people living in Househead, and particularly not of the councillors, one of whom called it a disgrace. But there are two or three particular elements of the project we're concerned about. One is the area outside the former W.H. Smith, at the bottom of the High Street, which is a really important part of the scheme, and really transform that part of the town centre. And the lead officer told us that that had been dropped from the project, probably because of problems in liaising with the highways department at the county council. But whatever the reason, this is a real bad loss to the whole project if it doesn't go ahead. And we really, the town council and local residents really want to see that go ahead. She said that the county council might carry out repairs in the area. Well, that's not the design-led transformation of the area that we really looked forward to seeing originally. So that's one part. The second area is at the top of the High Street, where we wanted a pedestrian island in the road. It's a very dangerous junction. People are putting their life in danger in crossing at that point. And we really want to see some easier way of crossing with a pedestrian island. And again, it needs liaison with the county council to make sure that happens. There are also improvements in that area to the pavement area and to the car parking area, which are also extremely important parts of the scheme. But they're not even mentioned in the letter that we had from the lead officer, so we're concerned that they might have been dropped also. While I'm on my feet, I would also like to mention that a lorry went into the railings just by the traffic lights in the middle of the town centre, middle of the High Street, over 6 months ago, leaving an unsightly position with prongs sticking out, dangerous, unsightly, and we've contacted county council several times. Nothing's happened about it, and it's a long delay before anything's done about it. And it really spoils, the improvements that have been made in terms of repainting and new street furniture and so on, which we're obviously very, very grateful for. So it's continuing to deteriorate rather than being regenerated. And we really are keen to get back on track with the High Street improvements. We would like the Cabinet and the Cabinet officer, I assume it's Councillor Ritchie who would be responsible, to look into it and perhaps have a meeting with some of the Househead councillors, because I think we all feel the same way, and we would all like something to be done about these issues. Thank you very much.
Councillor Ritchie.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your questions and your concerns, Councillor Finken. So first of all, the area that you referred to has a tree at the bottom of the High Street, and the response from the council, from the Essex County Council, is absolutely right. We decided to remove that area because what it was doing was delaying the application for the minor works agreement for phase 2. So to ensure that we can move on with the phase 2 element of those works, we've removed that part of the works so that we can get the application approved and the start of works. I'm pleased to say that that the final piece of that minor works application phase 2 is with legal services, and we're looking to get that signed off very shortly. And the contractors have penciled in a start in both sites, Houselit and in Witham, within the next 3 weeks, excluding that piece of work down the bottom until they've worked out what they need to do there. It's actually quite a complex piece, especially around the ownership piece. And of course, we have to make sure we do that right, because otherwise they could end up on the wrong side of the legal elements of having to carry out that piece of work. With regards to the piece of work at the top of the High Street, we have done all of our modelling, which we have included as part of this project for Houselit, and that has now been passed over to Essex County Council. Obviously, for that to come forward, we will need for that to be a fully funded project, but we have done all the pre-work and handed it over to Essex County Council, so it's pretty much shovel ready from a planning and development perspective for delivery up at the Houselit. With regards to keeping members informed, now I've received this news around legal services, signing off on the minor works agreement. As soon as I've got that start date penciled in, I will of course share it with Houselit members and indeed Witham members as well. You're absolutely right, long overdue, and I'm looking forward to this project being delivered. Thank you, Councillor Finken.
Thank you. Councillor Pell.
Thank you, Mr Chairman. I'd just like to agree with Councillor Finken, what he's had to say about our High Street. And as Cabinet knows, the last 2 Cabinet meetings, I've raised this subject. And I have today, again, written to my county councillor about the railings. We have Remembrance Service coming up in just over a week, which means there'll be people taking photographs of us marching up the High Street. That railings are dangerous. We're going to be walking in the road. They stick out into the road. There was some plastic railings put up in front of it to protect it. They got blown down and still laying down on the ground. It is a really dangerous situation, and people are complaining and saying, why is nothing being done about it? And it isn't good enough, the fact that I've been talking about it for months and still getting nowhere.
Councillor Ritchie.
Thank you, Mr Chairman. Whilst it doesn't particularly fall into my portfolio, bearing in mind that I am dealing with Essex County highways and indeed Councillor Cunningham, and thanking him for all his work actually in getting progress, people prodded and process and policies followed and progress made up to this point. I shall write to him with regards to if something can be done before the Remembrance Day parades. We want it looking nice and tidy for members of Houselit. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe our final question is from Councillor Staines. However, if anybody else has any questions, please raise your hand in the meantime. Over to you, Councillor Staines.
Thank you, Chair. Happy to take this as a written answer. Thinking about local government reorganisation and the local plan review process, Braintree's local plan review is not being undertaken in isolation, and proposals and decisions just up the road or the railway line can have profound implications for our communities and in the development of suitable and sustainable plans. So 3 asks really. Can a summary of neighbouring authorities' plan development be shared and kept updated to inform officers, members and residents here in Braintree District? 2,
Councillor Staines, can I just remind you that you're asking multiple questions and only one question can be asked this evening?
I'll link them all together then. Can sites no longer under consideration by the local plan subcommittee now be removed from the local plan review map? And can the plans in the local plan, the plans in the local plan to 2033, or where development has been granted and will now deliver in the period to 2041, now be included in the local plan review map, giving residents a comprehensive overview? So it was all one topic.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you. Councillor Spray.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Councillor Staines. I think in view of the fact that there were 3 questions sort of rolled into one, but not exactly, I will provide written answers on those. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Spray. So, members, this concludes this item. Any question requiring a written response will be answered within 10 working days of this meeting and shared with all of our members. We'll now proceed to agenda item 8, which is the revised statement of the licensing policy in respect to the Licensing Act 2003. So this report for this item commences on page 7 of tonight's agenda, and please can I invite Councillor Prime, Chairman of the Licensing Committee, to move the recommendation. Before you make your speech, it must be seconded.
Thank you, Chair. I recommend this.
Thank you. Please.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can we have a seconder? Councillor Ramage. Thank you, Councillor Ramage. Do you wish to reserve your right to speak? Okay, thank you. Councillor Prime, please can I invite you to speak on this matter?
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, members. And I stand here again. Tonight is to propose the adoption of the 6th revision of the Braintree District Council's Licensing Act 2003, and it's a statement of the licensing policy. Section 5 of the Licensing Act 2003 requires a licensing authority to prepare and publish a statement of its licensing policy at least every 5 years. This policy must be published before the licensing authority can carry out its function in respect to individual and applications, and notices must be made under the Act. During the 5-year policy, it must be kept under review, and any changes that government make must be brought forward and put into it. The last council reviewed this policy in 2020, and it was adopted by full council in January 2021. So in theory it runs out this January. The council, according to its duties under the Licensing Act, have reviewed the existing policy and have made amendments. I would like at this moment to thank all the officers involved in reviewing it and keeping it up to date. Carrying on, a 12-week public consultation period of the draft statement was sent out in January 2025, and there was only responses relating to updating the authorities of the contact details. Everything else went through. All changes are in the policy, which you should have all read and noted, and it's there for everybody to see, and you can read that. If you haven't read it yet, read it at your leisure. If you can't sleep, it will put you to sleep. On September the 18th, the Licensing Committee approved this report, and I'm now presenting it tonight for your adoption. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Prime. Do any members wish to speak on this item? Councillor Beavis.
Thank you, Mr Chairman, and just very briefly, Councillor Prime thanked the officers of the Council for their work, and I would agree with that. I think the senior officer we have there, we're so fortunate to have him and all that he does. But also to the members, I mean, from my side, I'm always listening to what goes on the licensing committee, and it's a huge amount of work by our members, actually, and I think sometimes we sort of sit here and giggle at this, but actually, you know, members at this authority put in an awful lot of work, and I just hope going forward that other authorities, as we come together, do licensing with the same gumption. So thank you very much for your report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Beavis. Councillor Ramage as seconder, is there anything would you like to speak on this matter at all?
Well, more or less everything's been said, but I'd just like to thank everyone involved on the committee, and rightly so, that it is a hard-working committee. You know, I've regular 2, sometimes 3 times a month they do have meetings, and as I've served on it myself, so I know what it entails. So I thank everybody that's been involved with it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Ramage. Councillor Prime, as the proposer, would you like to reply to any of the speeches before I put the recommendation to the vote?
Just thank you very much, Councillor Beavis, for your kind words. Yes, the members of the committee, when they do meet, do work hard, like the officers that present all the paperwork to us. It is a really hard job for them. So thank you very much. That's it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Prime. So members, the recommendation is set out on page 7 of the agenda and has been moved and seconded. All those in favour of the recommendation, please indicate. All those against the recommendation, please indicate. And any abstentions? As expected, that was unanimous, and the recommendation has been approved. So we'll now proceed to agenda item 9, the Treasury Management Annual Report for the year 2024-25. This report commences on page 72 of tonight's agenda. As this item is to note, therefore, it is no requirement to seek a seconder for this item. Please can I invite Councillor Kevin Bowers, Cabinet Member for Finance, Resources and Performance, to present this report.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm pleased to present Council with the annual Treasury report. The annual Treasury Management Report for the financial year 2024-25. As members will be aware, our Council has adopted the Chartered Institute of Public Finance and Accountancy's Treasury Management in the Public Services Code of Practice, commonly known as the CIPFA Code. This code sets out clear requirements for how we manage our Treasury activities, ensuring transparency, accountability and sound financial stewardship. In line with the CIPFA Code, the Council approved the Treasury Management Strategy for 24-25 at the full Council meeting on the 19th of February 2024. We also provided a mid-year update to full Council on the 9th of December 2024, ensuring ongoing oversight and the opportunity to review our progress. Most recently, the annual report for 24-25 was reviewed by the Governance and Audit Committee at their meeting on the 9th of July 2025. I'm pleased to report that no changes were recommended, reflecting the Committee's confidence in our approach and the outcomes achieved. I would like to thank the members of the Governance and Audit Committee for the continued constructive debates that they have when discussing the performance of the Council's finances. It is also very good to note the comment from Councillor Walsh at this committee, and I quote, "The financial management in this Council is exemplary." This report before members tonight demonstrates our commitment to being a high-performing organisation. We continue to deliver excellent value-for-money services, achieving better outcomes for our residents and businesses. The report illustrates the Council's Treasury management position as of the 31st of March 2025. This strong position reflects our ongoing commitment to prudent financial management and effective stewardship of public resources. Our underlying need to borrow for capital purposes is measured by the Capital Financing Requirement, or the CFR. Alongside this is our usable reserves and working capital, and they serve as the core resources available for investment. These factors are summarised in the report before you tonight. There have been some notable movements in the Council's capital financing requirement this year. Firstly, we have adopted the IFRS 16, the new accounting standard for leases, effective from the 1st of April 2024. This change means that former operating leases are now recognised on our balance sheet as right-of-use assets with corresponding lease liabilities. Additionally, we entered into a new finance lease agreement, lease agreements amounting to 2.1 million, which enabled us to acquire 8 refuse vehicles and 5 sweepers, investments that will directly support our essential frontline services. As of the 31st of March 2025, our working capital balances, including collection fund balances, which are due to the government and precepting authorities and will be payable in future years. Throughout the year, we maintain borrowing and investments below their underlying levels, a strategy known as internal borrowing. This approach helps us reduce overall risk and minimise interest costs. The full details of our Treasury management position, including a borrowing update, borrowing strategy, our other debt activity, as well as our Treasury management activity, and the changes over the past year are outlined in the report. In closing, I would like to thank all members and officers involved in the Treasury management process for their diligence and professionalism throughout the year. Together, we are ensuring that our Council remains financially resilient and focused on delivering the best possible value for our communities. I hope members have had time to review the report before you tonight. I'm happy to receive and note this Treasury Management Annual Report for 2024-25. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bowers. Do any members wish to speak on this item? Councillor Abbott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, generally I would agree with what Councillor Walsh said. I think the Council over the years and decades has been run on a sound financial basis at a high level. So this year's budget is looking well on track, and I just wanted to pick out a couple of parts of the report. Firstly is the net cash and investments, a very substantial increase to 73.4 million, which on page 77 of the report says is available for investment. We are a public authority that is here to support our residents, and as we heard in the debate on the motion, there are a number of areas where we feel investment could be improved, support for residents could be improved. And Councillor Bowers will also know that every year I make the same call, which is why aren't every single member of this authority in their wards asked what they would like to do next year as part of the budget process. So if it's opportune, Mr Chairman, and the Councillor Bowers is allowed to respond, I would ask two questions. One is, given our very healthy financial position, are we going to spend just a fraction of that on our local communities? And secondly, will he reintroduce the Council to Capital programme requests where every member of the authority is sent an email saying, what would you like to see improved in your ward? Now, I know for a fact that a lot of those things probably won't happen because of costs, but some might. And I think in a democracy it'd be really good if all members could be asked. Thank you, Mr Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Abbott. Councillor Beavis.
Thank you, Chairman. And just very briefly, and I would agree with the comments made by Councillor Abbott. And we didn't discuss this report too much within our group because I said to our group, we've got an extra training session that's gone in the week before corporate scrutiny where we take the budget and the first opportunity to look at budget. So I just wondered what the extra meeting was, and are we going to have an opportunity as a group of members to go over this? The meeting's on Teams and has been sort of put in quite quickly, so I just wondered what the rationale around that was. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you both Councillor Abbott and Councillor Beavis. It is noted that you asked questions as part of the debate, so I must remind you that there is no automatic right to a response to the questions raised during the debate or on any item within this meeting. However, it is a matter for Councillor Bowers as whether if they wish to respond as part of their right to reply at the discussion at the conclusion of the debate, which I'll now pass over to Councillor Bowers. Would you like to reply to the speeches before I ask members to note this report this evening? Over to you, Councillor Bowers.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I'm happy just to make a couple of comments in regards to the couple of speeches or questions that have been raised tonight. I think, first of all, this is the Treasury Management report. It's not the actual start of the budgeting process per se. This is also the Treasury Management report as closing up on the 31st of March 2025. So that's just from I say just for the end of last year. The there is a finance seminar in the diary that, as you rightly say, that's going to be on Teams. We did do the same last year. That's basically to give all members more of a basic understanding and grounding in regards to local government finance in preparation for the start of the new budget process. So obviously the new budget process will be the same as we've done in previous years. I think it's the 19th of November, we will be presenting our initial budget proposals to the Corporate Scrutiny Committee, and then onwards from that, and obviously get the local government settlement, and then we do the second one in the end of January and that kind of thing. So you haven't missed any opportunity kind of thing, but that seminar is just to help members ahead of the next upcoming process. In regards to Councillor Abbott's comments and that is, yes, it is a good report. The finances are managed exemplary, like I concur with what Councillor Walsh has said. I think it's also, and when we're talking about the budget, it's also, we need to be prudent about it that we still have a budget gap over the lifetime of the MTFS. So there's not, though we talk about sort of quite large numbers within this report, when it comes down to it, to the actual budgeting process and the budget gap, there is still a budget gap. So we have to be conscious of that. I appreciate that in years gone by, we may have gone out with a council capital bids process and invited bids, which we haven't done in the last couple of years when sort of money's been a little bit tighter. However, like I did say at the Corporate Scrutiny Committee last year, at any time of the year, if any members have got anything within their own communities that they feel that they want to sort of make a suggestion and that kind of thing, it can always be looked at. But the resulting, there's obviously work that needs to go into it, but also the result might not always be that we can do it for one reason or another. But we will always take that under consideration. So if any members feel that strongly, as you have done yourself, Councillor Abbott, If people feel that strongly, then obviously they can make representation. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Bowers. So the members, this report is for noting, so please indicate that the report has been noted by a way of hands. Thank you very much, members. This report has now been noted, and we will now proceed to agenda item 10, the Governance and Audit Committee annual report for the year 2024 to 25. The report for this item commences on page 84 of tonight's agenda, and as this item is to note, there is therefore no requirement to seek a seconder for this item. As I am the chairman of the Governance and Audit Committee, I will rather bizarrely invite myself to introduce this report. So just bear with me while I get that ready. So the Governance and Audit Committee approved this report on its meeting of October the 8th, 2025. The purpose of an audit committee is to provide those charged with governance independent assurance on the adequacy of the risk management framework, the internal control environment, and the integrity of the financial reporting and governance processes. By overseeing both internal and external audit, it makes an important contribution to ensuring that effective management arrangements are in place. The Governance and Audit Committee performs the functions of an audit committee, and as such is a key component to the Council's governance framework, providing independent and high-level resource to support good governance and strong public financial management. This report summarises the work undertaken by the Governance and Audit Committee in the year 2024-25 and up until July 2025. The Governance and Audit Committee's role in the provision of assurance on governance, internal control and risk management arrangements is key to delivery of all Council priorities and corporate objectives. To provide ongoing assurance over the Council's internal controls and systems, the Committee has been supported by many officers and external agencies. For example, the Chief Executive, the Corporate Director, Head of Finance, Audit, our Head of Finance, our Audit, Insurance and Fraud Manager, Financial Services Manager and Committee Services, as well as representatives from our previous auditors, BDO, and our new auditors, KPMG. The Council's auditors are now really starting to get work undertaken with the backlog. Now we can move forwards. Operating effectively, the work of the Governance and Audit Committee will enhance what this organisation does. But I would like to express my thanks to those officers and the members who have supported the work of this committee by presenting, discussing and challenging reports. I think it's well known that the reports are very technical, extremely long and are quite varied. And for those members who have dedicated themselves to various training programmes, but also having that new knowledge to be able to ensure that officers are held to account. I think just to briefly overview, page 92 and 93 quite clearly indicates the sheer amount of work that the committee does undertake over the year, but also quite impressively on the final page of the report on page 99, I would just like to commend all members from all sides of the chamber for their attendance and their commitment to the committee, because it's been an absolute pleasure to be able to serve as chairman over the last few years. So thank you, members. Does anybody wish to speak on this matter? Councillor Hooks.
Thank you. Just a small point. At Governance and Audit, when we had this report delivered to us, I noted an error which hasn't been changed on this one. So on page 99, it says Councillor Wendy Taylor attended as a substitute for Councillor Hayes, but she actually substituted for myself, and after I noted that last time, but it hasn't been changed for the full Council version.
Thank you. We'll make sure that does get changed this time. Thank you very much. So, members, as this is for noting, please indicate that the report has been noted by way of hands. Thank you ever so much. That report has now been noted, and we'll now proceed to agenda item 11, the Cost of Living Annual Report for 2024-25. This commences on page 100 of tonight's agenda, and as this item is also to note, there's no requirement to seek a seconder for this item. So please can I invite Councillor Graham Butland, Leader of the Council, to present this report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr Chairman, members, the report before you tonight highlights the work undertaken in 2024-25 by Braintree District Council and its partners to support our residents across the district who've been impacted the most by cost of living issues. You will recall, Mr Chairman, that in early 2023, the Council accepted my recommendation to set aside £1 million of our New Homes bonus. It should be recognised that that's another advantage of building houses in the district, a direct feedback to the rest of the community. We agreed to help our residents in 3 key areas. 1, support with access to food and essential goods. Secondly, to help our community groups who support the most vulnerable in our community. And in third, ensuring that money is not a barrier to health and well-being activities for all, and in particular, young people. When we set up our cost of living programme, we recognised that the most effective way to deliver was to work closely, closely with our community and voluntary sector partners who had previously demonstrated how effective they were in supporting our residents through the pandemic. From the start, there's been a community-led and delivered programme with support from our community services team. And you can see from the report in front of you what an impact they have made. The cost of living programme is now in its final year and has delivered large and small projects across the district in both urban and rural areas, supporting people at all stages of life and when they need it most. Whilst this is the final year of this funding pot, I have asked officers to consider the legacy of our cost of living programme and how we can ensure that work continues into the future. Some of this will be coming forward as part of our budget proposals for next year. For now, though, I would like to put on record my thanks to the Cost of Living Partnership for ensuring that our council investment has gone as far as it possibly can, making every penny count. I'd also like to pay tribute to the hard work that has been put in by our own officers, led by Tracy Parry, our Community Services Manager, and Michael Graham, our Cost of Living Project Officer, and other officers who have supported them. I'm incredibly proud of what we've been able to achieve together, and I hope that this report gives all members a flavour of the amount of work that's been undertaken, as well as the impact that it has had on our communities. Even relatively small sums of money can make a considerable difference to parts of our community. And I have great pleasure in drawing this report to the attention, Chairman, of all members, and hope that they will note the contents and work with us on future years. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Butland. Do any members wish to speak on this matter? Please keep your hand raised until we acknowledge as well. Thank you. Councillor Mason.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I'd like to commend the author of the Cost of Living report, Michael Graham, for what's not only a detailed and informative report, but also for making it such a highly visually accessible document. There are some excellent examples of the diverse nature of help on offer, including the flexible thinking by BDC officers. However, as noted in the report, the cost of living is not coming down, and some of the supply sources, i.e. community generosity, is dwindling. I would like to know, and I think actually Councillor Butland, you've kind of got ahead of me there and said that they are actually going to look at the feasibility of continuing it for further years. But given that the changes that are afoot in the upcoming local government restructuring, and also the fact that the report identified the need for early intervention, I'd just like to know how soon this could be looked at and what the criteria the relevant officers will look at in terms of exploring the feasibility of this, because I personally think it's a project that's very well worth continuing. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. Councillor Edwards.
Thank you, Chair. I welcome much of this funding and actually think this particular report dovetails quite well with the motion that came before us earlier. We're talking about community infrastructure and how we support our communities. I think this report demonstrates this council's absolute commitment to doing that in the £1 million of funding that was allocated to the Cost of Living Fund. I'd like to draw the attention of the council to two particular areas that affect my residents in Bocking South. The first being the Braintree Museum, which, as a result of this fund, was able to draw about £10,000. We're extremely lucky to have the Braintree Museum in our town. Local heritage is so important, and Braintree Museum is a fantastic guardian of that. I know that in the report, 680 people were granted free admission because of this funding. I very fondly remember when I was at primary school and Whitecourt School, Victorian Day, where we all dressed up as Victorians and got to go to Braintree Museum. And I'm thrilled that 450 free places for kids just like me were given holiday camps over the summer. In the Braintree Museum newsletter, I know they haven't just stayed in Braintree with their events. They've held events in Cressing Temple Barns. There are new info plaques in John Ray Park that celebrates the Black Notley naturalist. And I know as well that they're holding walking tours of Braintree on regular Saturdays. Sadly, I missed the one on the 27th of September because I was busy doing other things. However, I really do intend to go at some time soon. The second area that I'd like to draw the council's attention to is the fact that the food bank, Braintree Area Food Bank, has received £88,900 because of this fund. Now, Councillor Ricky and I were very lucky to go and visit Braintree Area Food Bank a couple of years ago, and I was struck by not only their commitment to help those who most need it, but also their commitment to then stop those people using the food bank, using data, using intervention to make sure that when people needed that resource, it was there for them, but actually they had the support then to work out where things might be going wrong and actually to come off using the food bank. And I think that's extremely valuable. Just to highlight that 3,380 people were helped to access the food bank because of this money. So as I say, Mr. Chairman, I think it's very apt this evening that we focus so much on community infrastructure and that we're now talking about this cost of living fund. It's a fantastic thing that this council has done to help our communities across this district. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. Councillor Heath.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before tonight's meeting started, myself and you were talking about the wonderful community that we have, the pleasure to be able to support and represent, and what goes on. And this document, again, shows that the skills and the dedication and the spirit in this area is just so amazing, and it just needs that little bit of support to be able to push it out. And as Councillor Mason said, we must look at ways that we can continue to support our communities in every way we can, because what they can turn £500 and £1,000 into is just stunning. It's so much more than we can just sit here writing a cheque. And Councillor Butland did mention it. Tracy and Michael are two officers that just breathe community engagement, and we are so lucky to have them. I thoroughly recommend this report to this council, and I hope that for as long as we stay here, which may only be another couple of years, we can continue to do things like this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Heath. Councillor Ball.
Thank you, Chair. Within this very enlightening report, I'd like to draw attention to one of the less obvious successes of Braintree Council's support for our residents, the Trusted Money Confidence Programme, which was carried out under the Age Well initiative. Now, there are myriad of reasons for lack of confidence with money. It could be financial instability, it could be sheer poverty, recent traumatic events, or even perhaps the loss of a partner who always took care of finances. And restoring or instilling that confidence was the aim of the Trusted Money Confidence Team's work with local residents. I mean, bearing in mind that this was a tiny little initiative started by a mother and her son, her daughter. Peer-to-peer support, along with weekly guest professionals in a 6-week programme, produced remarkable results. We can see from the outcome in terms of improved confidence and well-being on page 136 of tonight's agenda. And this welcome intervention not only rescues some of our residents from dire circumstances, but helps equip them to survive and thrive in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Ball. Councillor Beavis.
Thank you, Mr Chairman, and I just wanted to add to the comments of this evening that our group discussed and note the report. Thanks to Tracy and Michael, and I would agree with colleagues, it's just the way that it's written, actually, it's very easily to sort of understand and relate to. And I think it just demonstrates, actually, that small projects and small budgets really can deliver, and they're delivered across the district. But I think the difference with this is that it's turning 1 million into a whole lot more. And that's primarily because of the voluntary sector and how they really sort of bind communities together and groups in our communities together. And I was really pleased to hear from the leader that some sort of something looking similar to this might be coming forward. So it's going to be good to hear that as the next few weeks unravel in terms of our financial planning for the future. So thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Beavis. Councillor Bowers-Flint.
Thank you, Chairman. I can't let this go without referring to a few of these, as why I'd like to refer to every single recipient of it, but I don't want to step on Councillor Cunningham's toes. But there's just a few that I have to mention, and the first one is the First Stop Centre. If anybody knows anything about that centre, it amazes me every time I go there. Every time I go there, I speak to everybody in the queue who's waiting to be given food. And all their stories are so different and so far apart, but all of them people in them queues would not eat if they weren't able to go there and get their food, including families. And that lady, she just breathes and does it flows through her blood of helping people. She does courses there to help people to read and write, and she does amazing things. So I just think that we've given them £10,000, but it is like giving them £1 million, basically, and it turns into a lot. And to be fair, the local supermarkets do help her in giving all their food at the end of the day that's going out of date. So that helps an awful lot. We talk about sport in the community. Rise Community Boxing. Boxing is such a fantastic thing for younger people to do, both boys and girls, because it gets rid of a lot of aggression that gets built up sitting behind screens and playing computer games and everything like that, because all they do is just build up their aggression all the time. Boxing gets rid of this. It is so good for all of them for so many things, especially mental health. But the one thing that I do want to speak on, and you will get this because I can't let it go without mentioning it, and I'm really disappointed that Councillor Heath has forgotten, and that is Beat the Streets. It's something that we got involved in beating the streets, and in beating those streets, we in this district had 11,478 players. That means 11,500 people participated in walking. Best thing for your health, best thing for your mental health is walking. That is an awful lot of people to take part. That included 75 teams who were competing against each other, which was quite interesting to see because all the schools did compete with each other as well. But most importantly, they covered 69,556 miles. Now, if you know anything about walking, that's a long old way. But the thing that done and the stories that I've been told, that where it brought families together, they were going out in families, walking together, friends were walking together and they were walking and talking and everything, must have been fantastic for them. I am still looking at ways that we can carry on something similar to that because it is so good for the community. But they're just a few that I would like to speak about. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Bowers-Flint. Councillor Ethan Williams.
Thank you, Chairman. I, like everyone, rise in full support of this report. And I'd like to ensure that we recognise and congratulate the Council for its continued effort in maintaining one of the lowest council tax rates in the region while still delivering meaningful and tangible support for our communities. At a time when so many households and our communities are feeling the impact of cost of living, the Council has shown real leadership, balancing financial responsibility with compassion. It's not just about keeping the numbers low, but it's about making sure every pound spent reaches the people and groups who need it most. And it really has hit every part of our district. I want to place my highlight, obviously, on Whitton projects that I'm sure all Whitton members across the chamber will agree have benefited so much of our town from the grant, each one making a real difference. Each of these grants may seem small in scale, but together they represent something so much bigger. A council that listens, a council that invests locally, and a council that takes a people-first approach. So once again, I want to congratulate the council, officers, councillors, key partners for their hard work and commitment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. And Councillor Mary Cunningham.
Thank you, Chairman. This has been a really detailed report which outlines the enormous amount of support that this authority, its partners and the voluntary sector were able to roll out to all parts of the district from 2023 within the Cost of Living Partnership. We were very fortunate that we could commit a budget of £1 million and the partnership focused on several themes: fuel and energy poverty, general financial advice, food and essentials, health and wellbeing, winter resilience, data and horizon scanning. It's really pleasing to see from the report how much has been rolled out in line with those themes, and also very pleasing that we reached the whole district. I'm just going to outline a few of the projects that made such a difference. The expansion of the food bank to the rural areas with deliveries of food, but also identifying those residents who needed additional support and were signposted to that support. The 50p gym and swim. This allowed all ages to get out and help keep themselves fit right across the district. The small and micro grants over 2 years, which allowed smaller organisations to fund local projects and carry on the good community work that they were doing. Over 1,000 electric blankets over the 2 years, along with slow cookers and air fryers. The fuel bank, vouchers for those struggling to pay for gas, oil and electricity. Money advice support across the district. Contributions to holiday clubs for disadvantaged children. The funding of the REACH project in the Northern Rural District. Providing fridges, freezers to already established community assets right across the district. A vast range of groups and organisations were supported throughout. As I said at the beginning, we were very fortunate to have £1 million to commit to the partnership. And to ensure that it is given the best possible value, our cost of living officer has been monitoring and gathering data along with partners, which is being used to evaluate where support and intervention is needed in the future. So I think that gives comfort to those that raised that question. I don't see financial hardship regressing anytime soon, and our strong bond with partners and the voluntary sector has strengthened and has remained invaluable for all our residents and will for the future. Finally, I'd like to acknowledge, as the leader has done and other members, the enthusiasm, passion and commitment that all our officers and our partners and voluntary sector have put into this project, and in particular Tracy Parry and Michael Graham, our officers at this council, for their drive, experience and commitment to this project. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Mary Cunningham. Unless anybody else would like to speak on this matter, I would now like to ask Councillor Butland, as proposer, to reply to the speeches before I ask members to note the report this evening.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm delighted with all the contributions. Councillor Mason started off about the visually attractive nature of the report, and I do agree. There is probably a name of someone in the organisation who actually did this. I'm not sure that this. So whoever that was, and that they did it as well. Or, that was not done by Michael or Tracy, but someone else. And I think I agree with you entirely. It comes over in a very good way and is plain and easy to read. I think we do need to accept that the cost of living is going to continue to increase, and we know that food price inflation is running ahead of any others. And indeed, only, was it yesterday morning or this morning, a warning from some of the large supermarkets that if certain possible proposals coming from the Chancellor on taxation of business properties come into effect, that may also make it more expensive for food. But this wasn't just about food, this was about a whole wide range, and members have indicated that. What I think I'm really proud about this, though, it shows that local government, and I'm such a strong supporter of local government, can do so much without having to tell people what to do. That we can act as a facilitator to get things going with people who actually know better than us in many cases what's needed by the particular groups. And I think the way in which this, over such a wide variety, if this had been a centrally controlled issue from here, we would not, I don't think, have been able to reach such a large group of our community. So I'm really pleased with that. And as I say, I do hope we can find ways of continuing that forward. I'm very grateful to the colleagues who have contributed tonight, and I'm really grateful also not really grateful, I am extremely grateful to the voluntary organisations, large and small, who have come forward and really taken advantage of what's been available. And I'd also like to pay tribute both to Councillor Mary Cunningham as the lead portfolio holder on this, for the way in which she has worked with the community organisations as well to take it forward. I'm very, very grateful for that. So I hope, Madam Chairman, sorry, I hope, Mr. Chairman, no sexism in this place, that people will note this report and can we publicise it, please? It's got no political stuff on it. Can we get it out there as to what is available, etc.? So I would be very grateful if members would support us in that way. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you ever so much, Councillor Butland. Members, as this report is for noting, please indicate that the report has been noted by way of hands. Thank you, members. The report has been noted, and we will now proceed to agenda item 12, employee recognition. This item commences on page 145 of tonight's agenda, and as this item, like some others this evening, has just been asked to be noted, there is no requirement to seek a seconder for this item. So please can I ask Councillor Tom Cunningham, Cabinet Member for Transformation, the Environment and Customer Services, to present this report.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much indeed. Delighted that this has been brought to full council. The recognition of our employees through the second quarter of the financial year, July through to the end of September. So it's relatively hot off the press. Some great service provided by our officers there. It's great to see it being recognised. Going forward, if colleagues do wish to single out a particular member of staff for particularly excellent service or going beyond what is deemed the call of duty, can I ask that you let the Chief Executive know as the head of paid service, and he'll make sure that the name of that member of staff goes into the process for the special recognition awards and titles. That I've been asked to pass that on from the Chief Executive. If you want to acknowledge the Chief Executive's particular meritorious service, I don't know who you write to, probably the monitoring officer, but no discrimination across the organisation. But an excellent report to end an excellent evening this evening. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Do any members wish to speak on this item? Councillor Pell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I can remember many years ago, well, not that many years ago, we always used to recognise staff with long service. We would have them here at a council meeting and present them with a certificate. Do we no longer do that? Because it would be nice to recognise and to see those people who are doing that work on our behalf.
Thank you, Councillor Pell. And Councillor Abraham?
Thank you, Chair. What I've learned tonight, listening to everybody here, is how many good people there are in the organisation. But I'd also like you to bear in mind, every day spend 2 or 3 hours a day being kind to yourself, because we're nothing without all of you pulling together. So I'd like us all to look each other in the eye and saying, well done.
Thank you, Councillor Abraham. Councillor Bowers?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I welcome this report and commend all the names that are on it. One of them I just wanted to pick out was Richard Bass, not specifically for what he does, but obviously he does a really good job in regards public safety and in regards to the tree work and that kind of thing, which is a key thing for the authority and for the district. But the quote in regards what he quite often says about "I'm just doing my job," and I think that's probably a common theme in regards to a lot of the staff that we've got across this authority, that people do it because they are just doing it. They feel they're just doing their job. They're not doing it for accolades or this kind of thing, but they are just doing their job. And we are really lucky and proud to have the level of officers we've got in all departments across this authority. I would just encourage, all members. I think that we should be recommending more ourselves and that kind of thing, following what Councillor Cunningham was saying, and hopefully the Chief Executive's inbox starts getting full on in regards to those recommendations, because even the noting about not having like a team of the month and that kind of thing, where, as we all know, there's so many different teams in this authority that do sterling work, and that. So I think we need to take it on ourselves also to put some names forward, because I'm sure all of us have got one, two, probably loads more in regards to people that really serve our communities well. But I'd like to congratulate all the names referenced on this report, and I'm so pleased it's brought to full council now. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Bowers. Just before I hand back over to Councillor Cunningham as proposer, Dan Gascoigne, our Chief Executive, would just like to clarify the question raised by Councillor Pell with regards to long recognition.
Thank you, Chairman, and thanks to all members. I think it's a real celebration of our staff who go out of their way every day, and I get great pleasure from discussing and seeing the nominations coming forward and being able to sort of share that with members. So thank you for that. And on long service awards, all staff are given the opportunity, if they want to, come along to full council and receive that award. And we have had some in the last couple of years as well. Councillor Bell, thanks.
So, Councillor Cunningham, would you like to reply to the speeches before I ask members to note this report?
Won't add much more, just say thank you very much to colleagues who contributed. I think we had a planning policy officer earlier this year actually who received a long-term award. Thank you very much to Councillor Abraham as always. And yes, once again, thank you to our staff and congratulations to them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cunningham. Members, as this report is for noting, please indicate by show of hands. Thank you, members. The report has been noted. So, members, this item concludes the business for this evening. Thank you for your attendance and participation at this evening's meeting, and to those that will eventually get to watch this broadcast on the Council's YouTube channel. The recording of this meeting will be published as soon as this is possible. Members, please be reminded that the next meeting of full Council is due to be held on the 8th of December at 7:15, and calendar invites have been circulated. I will formally close this meeting of full Council at 9:19. Have a good night, everybody.